Okay, so today we are breaking down a really fascinating and honestly pretty unusual document. It's a formal criminal complaint, but what makes it so wild is that it wasn't just sent to the DA or the police. Oh no, it was sent out to this massive, almost unbelievable list of people, basically turning a private fight into a very, very public statement. Let's get into it. Right from the jump, the complaint hits you with this incredibly powerful language: barbaric, wrongful, systemic injustice. I mean, this one line tells you everything you need to know about the tone here. This isn't just someone complaining about their job. This is someone framing their story as the final terrible chapter in a long drawn-out war. The stakes are clearly sky high. So before we can unpack this whole story, we've got to get the lay of the land. Who are the key players? Who's making these really serious accusations, and who's on the receiving end? All right, so on one side, you have Professor Mohammed Fayyad. He's a software engineering professor, and he's representing himself, which is a big deal. On the other side, San Jose State University, the College of Engineering, and he specifically names 3 other professors. Now, to really get this, you have to understand a little bit about how academia works. Professor Fayyad claims that as a non-tenured professor, he was in a really vulnerable spot compared to his tenured colleagues, like Professor Jerry Gao, who he points to as the main person behind this whole conflict. Now, this complaint isn't just about something that happened last week. No, it paints a picture of a long, complicated history. It's a story about a professional relationship that didn't just go sour, it allegedly spiraled into a conflict that spanned decades. And get this. According to the timeline in the document, this whole thing kicks off way back in 1995 with him helping out a colleague. Seems pretty normal, right? But then you fast forward to March of last year, and everything has completely fallen apart. He's been terminated. And then, just last month, he's facing eviction, which he says is a direct result of being fired. It's just a truly devastating turn of events. The complaint doesn't just talk about feelings of injustice. It puts a hard number on the damages. And we are not talking about a small amount of money here. The document claims that everything that happened to him led to a loss of over $200,000 in annual income. I mean, think about that. That's a completely life-changing amount of money to lose. So here's how the complaint connects the dots. It argues that this massive financial hit wasn't just bad luck. It was the result of a deliberate campaign against him. The allegations are serious: being systematically shut out of leadership, having his career sabotaged, and in the publish or perish world of academia, that's a death sentence. He claims it was all part of a hostile environment driven by what he explicitly calls unveiled racial discrimination. Okay, now this is where the story takes a really wild turn. When you think about evidence for a legal complaint, right, you're probably thinking emails, maybe some internal memos, witness testimony. But Professor Fayyad, well, he's offering up something completely different. 56. He claims that the proof of this decades-long injustice is documented inside 56 books that he wrote himself. I mean, just let that sink in. It's an incredible claim, right? That his personal and professional story is so intertwined with his academic work that the books themselves are the evidence. It just completely blurs the line between scholarly work and a legal deposition. And this just shows you the sheer scale of what he's done. These 56 books aren't just random titles. They're organized into these whole series, with these incredibly provocative names: Collective Injustice, Brutality of Tyrants, Diabolical Souls. He's basically presenting this huge body of work as the ultimate witness to what he went through. So after laying out this whole history, these heavy allegations, and this unique mountain of evidence, the document gets down to business. It makes 3 very clear, very specific demands. And there's no ambiguity here. First up, he wants a full-blown criminal investigation into everyone he's accusing of being part of a conspiracy. Second, he's asking for full restitution, money to cover everything: the financial, moral, and psychological damages. And third, and most urgently, he's asking for an emergency order to stop the eviction hanging over his head. And now we get to what is, for my money, the most remarkable part of this entire document. It's not just what's in it, but who it was sent to. So officially, the complaint is addressed to the Attorney General of California and the DA of Santa Clara County. Standard procedure. But the CC list, that's where this thing blows up from a simple legal filing into a full-on public broadcast. And you can see there's a real strategy here. It went straight to the top of the state government: the governor, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state. This isn't just a courtesy copy. It's a direct appeal to the people with ultimate authority over the state university system. It also went to key agencies like the California Civil Rights Department and CalPERS, the big state retirement system. Now, that's a really tactical move, right? He's trying to trigger separate investigations into discrimination and his employment benefits. He didn't stop at the state level either. The complaint landed in the offices of U.S. Representatives Ro Khanna and Zoe Lofgren. By looping them in, he's taking a local university issue and kicking it up to the national stage, trying to bring a whole new level of political pressure. And this is where it gets really interesting. He sent copies to major academic publishers, Wiley, Taylor and Francis. This is a fascinating move because it's aimed at potentially damaging the professional reputations of his colleagues right where it hurts the most, in the publishing world that defines their entire careers. The list even included big banks: Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. What's the point of that? Well, it serves to formally document the real-world financial disaster he's facing, creating an official paper trail of his distress for these huge corporations to see. And finally, he blasted it out to over 24 different law firms. This is kind of a 2-for-1 deal. It's a massive help wanted sign, a plea for legal representation, but it's also a form of public shaming, letting the university know he is actively and very publicly looking for someone to sue them. But then, after this exhaustive, strategic, almost weaponized list of officials and corporations and lawyers, the document ends with this: a deeply personal dedication to his children. It's such a jarring shift in tone, and it just slams the human cost of this whole story right back into focus. And that really just leaves us with this one big question. By taking what is a deeply personal and professional fight and turning it into this massive public campaign, has he found a new way to seek justice? Is he betting that by shining the brightest light possible on his situation, he can get a result that the normal, slow-moving legal system could never provide? Or is this just a desperate act from a man who feels like he has absolutely nothing left to lose? It makes you wonder, in our hyper-connected world, where does a personal grievance end and a public campaign begin?